Doctors, what's the dumbest thing you've heard from a patient? Unfiltered Confessions, voiced by William Bennett. Ex's mom told me to stop taking antibiotics because they're harmful and kill your antibodies. Some patients think I check their blood pressure and temperature at 4 a.m. just to make some extra money. But come on, you had an open heart surgery 12 hours ago. This is kinda important. A year ago, when my grandma was in the hospital, the nurse would come in to check her blood pressure and temperature, and my grandma acted like she was stealing her health, like it was some physical thing she could actually lose. The mom once requested a maternity test, not paternity, a maternity test. She was convinced her husband had somehow implanted another woman's sperm into her while she was asleep. Yep, you've read everything right. This girl came into the pharmacy trying to return her birth control pills. I asked why. She said she got pregnant, so I asked if she was taking them daily. She goes, no. On the days I didn't feel like it, I asked my boyfriend to take them instead. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I kept asking questions until she finally realized just how ridiculous that was. My friend is a midwife, and she told me about a young couple who just had a baby. A few hours after the birth, she went to check on the new mom and told her she was recovering really well, that her body was bouncing back fast, and without missing a beat, the baby's dad jumps in with,
"See, I told you, fisting really helps."
I was taking blood from an elderly woman, and she asked, "You're going to give it back, right?" I told her no. She totally lost it. She had no idea body can make new blood. I told the father of a 3-year-old girl who was supposed to have her tonsils and adenoids removed the next morning not to let her eat or drink before the surgery. The next day during the procedure, she threw up leftover scrambled eggs and some food went into her lungs. Her heart stopped and I spent 25 minutes doing CPR to bring her back. We canceled the surgery and transferred to the pediatrics or ventilation. The father's response,
"She said she was hungry. I thought it was too cruel to deny her food."
"What did you do to her?" That was the real cruelty. Idiot. A 20-year-old guy came into the ER clearly upset and down. He told me a story about how he slept with a woman without a condom. During sex, he noticed a plastic device on her body. When she told him it was an insulin pump because she had diabetes, he was totally freaked out. He came straight into the hospital to find out if he had caught diabetes.
"I had asthma as a kid myself, so stop telling me how to treat and raise my daughter just because you think you know better."
He leaves the hospital, comes back 2 hours later. His 6-year-old daughter with respiratory failure is now in the ICU. Once a female Marine surgeon who served in our battalion told one of my colleagues that she was allergic to adrenaline. When I skeptically asked her about it, this is how it went. Me: "You're saying you're allergic to adrenaline?" Her: "Yeah, once I went to the dentist, he gave me anesthesia and I had a bad reaction." Me: "Really? What kind of reaction?" Her: "I got really nervous." Me: "Well, everyone gets nervous at the dentist. You can't be allergic to adrenaline." Her: "My dentist told me that." Me: "Miss, I strongly doubt that." Her: "And what? It is written in my card." Me: "Yes, I see that, but it is not possible." Her: "Why?" Me: "You can't be allergic to adrenaline. You would have died in your mother's womb. Your body produces adrenaline, and it's natural." Once, an elderly woman told me minutes before her surgery while being wheeled to the operating room that she was allergic to latex. We were all in shock because we use a lot of latex during surgery, so we decided to move her to the latex-free room and do the operation there. When she woke up, I asked her how she reacts to latex. She said, "I just don't like the sound latex gloves make." I just turned around and walked out. I'm a vet, and the other day I met this lovely lady with a puppy. I asked her how old the puppy was because I have a dog, and she really wanted to play with him. He was only 10 weeks old, so I asked if the dog had his vaccination, worried that my dog might give the puppy something. She told me she didn't need to vaccinate her dog because he's going to be a future champion just like his parents, and that the vaccines were created to give her dog autism. I didn't know what to say. Looking at a patient's chart, I saw that she had diabetes. I asked, "Do you have any other medical conditions?" She replied, "No." Me: "Are you sure nobody's ever told you that you have any other medical conditions?" Patient: "Yes." Me: "What medications are you taking?" Patient: "Insulin for my diabetes." I'm a nurse, and once I had a 20-year-old patient who had no idea that sex can lead to pregnancy. She had no clue. A woman comes to the ER with her 6-year-old daughter, furious and crying, "My kid lost a tooth. It's my fault."
"How is this your fault? Did she fall or get hit?"
"It's my fault because I didn't let her have that stupid juice and now all her teeth are going to fall out."
I was in shock. "Sorry, what juice?"
"The concentrated orange juice in the ads. They contain high vitamin C. People say it's the reason why kids' teeth fall out."
I said, "Your child is 6. Her baby teeth are falling out to make way for adult ones. She doesn't have scurvy."
Oh no, I don't want any vaccination giving my daughter autism. My son has autism because of this crap.
I barely stopped myself from saying I have an autistic child. I think she'll change her mind about vaccines the second she's holding a dead baby from whooping cough. I have a lot of stories like this. One night, a woman came to our ER demanding we remove her gallbladder immediately while her kid was with her nanny. No issues with her gallbladder at all. She just thought it would be better without it. Me, "Miss, your son broke his leg." Mom, "Oh, okay, I thought it was a fracture." Me, "It is a fracture." Mom, "Wait, so is it broken or fractured?" Me, "Both." A Mormon couple came to my clinic because they had been trying to get pregnant for 6 months without success. The couple was in prime childbearing age, 20 years old, and they both looked pretty healthy. I ran some tests and none of them showed infertility. Turns out the husband was a minor and worked on a long shift schedule. During his shifts, he would masturbate, collect his sperm in bottles, and then mail them to his wife so she could inject it into her vagina with a syringe. What's worse, she kept the sperm in the freezer and only did it the day after her period. The couple got this idea from the internet as a form of artificial insemination. They thought it was a good idea because once during sex the woman felt intense pain. Since then they hadn't tried natural conception methods. You Americans really need to work on your sex education system. I worked in Australia and none of the patients I saw there showed this level of sexual ignorance. Over the years, people have brought their cats into my vet clinic because they found lumps on them. They had no idea that male cats also have nipples. Well, I'm not a medical professional yet, fingers crossed. But at the beginning of this semester, we had a girl in class who literally argued with the professor about having an allergy to water. She went on and on about how she had to buy special water and she could only drink a certain brand. "The other water makes my skin dry," she said. No idea how she came up with that. Haven't seen her in class lately. An old man from a remote village was convinced he had Parkinson's disease because he masturbated a lot when he was younger. Apparently that's what the church told the teenagers to keep them from doing it. Poor guy. One of my friends who works in the hospital once told me that a patient asked to have his father's brain transplanted with a pig's brain so he could survive after being told he had an inoperable brain tumor. You couldn't make this stuff up. When I worked in the ER, a guy came in with a gunshot wound to his leg. It was a simple wound, no major arteries or nerves hit. For all gunshot cases, we have to notify the police. I asked the guy what happened. Apparently his neighbor pissed him off. They got into an argument. I've completely forgotten the details. It was 20 years ago, but I remember it was something petty. The guy grabbed a hammer and used it to knock on his neighbor's door. The neighbor opened up with a gun and told him to leave or he'd shoot him. My patient says to me, "I didn't think he'd shoot again." I replied, "That's right. Again?" Apparently this wasn't their first clash. The year before they had a fight with the neighbor shot him. I can only guess it was justified since the neighbor didn't get arrested, and this guy wanted to break into the apartment of someone who had already shot him and was surprised he got shot again. The neighbor had warned him multiple times and even called an ambulance for the idiot instead of the cops. The dumbest person I've ever met. I had a patient a few years ago who tried to feed her newborn a sandwich. Spend a few days as a midwife in a maternity ward and you'll understand why I think people should need a permit to reproduce. One day I complained to a doctor that I'm not a normal kid, that something was wrong with me and they needed to fix it. I had just taken a shower after my first ever PE class and I saw I was the only guy who wasn't circumcised. I was 12 and no one had ever told me about it. The embarrassment was off the charts. My friend recently graduated from medical school and got a job in Cape Town, South Africa. Apparently people go a little crazy on Fridays, and one night a guy came in, was brought in by an ambulance with an axe in his head. He didn't make it. A few hours later another guy came in and asked if he could get the axe back. They said, "Sure sir, just wait right here," and called the cops. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on more super interesting discussions. In the meantime, you can check out our other videos.